with us on Facebook as well as on YouTube, facebook.com/WakeUpCallDT and youtube.com/WakeUpCallDT. We appreciate you being here. Once again, inside the Cafe Kubal studios, myself, Dan Tortora, as you know, DT, and Isaac Alford hanging out here with us. And inside of ModPawsPopcorn.com's What's Poppin' today is Liberty at Syracuse for your pregame show. As you know, Isaac and I have brought you through the entire season so far. And spoiler alert, after this broadcast, make sure you go to at WakeUpCallDT on Facebook, at CallDT on Twitter, and at WakeUpCall_DT on Instagram to find out why Isaac has been in my studio so much. We got a little proud announcement to make. He's moved in. He's got a little setup over here. You can't see it, but it's actually really nice. He's got a space heater. Got a hammock. But no, we got some big news coming up with Isaac Alford. So Isaac, as always, man, appreciate you.
Appreciate it. Always a pleasure.
Happy to have you here. So Liberty at Syracuse, talking about this on youtube.com/WakeUpCallDT and on facebook.com/WakeUpCallDT, your pregame show and pregame special of Wake Up Call, extending out from our 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, normal hours, Monday through Friday, where you're listening on mixlr.com/WakeUpCallDT. On WakeUpCallDT.com's homepage, on YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT, and on Facebook.com/WakeUpCallDT and Facebook.com/LiveNowDT. So however you're connecting with the show, we appreciate you being here, and thank you so much for being a part of Wake Up Call, where sports truly meets life. With that being said, Mr. Alford, before we get into Liberty, your overall take on Syracuse up to this point. 2-1 on the season, already doubled the wins from last year.
Yeah, definitely on the right path to get where they need to be. I kind of thought to myself, maybe coming out of non-conference, they had a good chance to be 3-1.
Yeah.
At this point, I was hoping they'd be 3-0 at this point, and getting to play a good Liberty team that they lost to last year. So, but no, I think they're not as bad as we think they are when they played against Rutgers, and they're not as good as we think they are from last week's game against Albany. But, again, like it's all a work in progress, so definitely moving in the right direction. So I think tomorrow's game is been circled on both teams' calendar.
Yeah.
Both teams, just a rubber match, and, they both want to get a chance to prove what they got, because, you got to give it to Liberty. Just going to probably be a team that, could probably play in the ACC. Last year they went 2-1 against the league. Yeah. So, like you're showing right now, Malik Willis is a good quarterback. So they're definitely going to have some interesting storylines going into it. And we'll talk more about that. But what do you think about last week? Going into Albany, I know everybody was down a little bit on the performance from Rutgers. And, again, I know you told me last week, hey, we got to at least win by 21.
Yeah, and so they got to win by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not saying I was overconfident, but I was pretty sure that we was going to be able to handle that Albany squad. And no disrespect to them, but it is Syracuse University in the ACC. So
yeah,
but they did come out and do some things, and hopefully that's something they can grow and build on.
Yeah, and I think, looking at this past week, obviously, you play the team that's in front of you, and it's not your fault, who that team is. And I think what, Sean Tucker was able to do was incredible. I love watching Sean Tucker run, and I did a special with Rob Drummond, who did not wear 44. He wore 36, and Sean wears 34. And, Sean Tucker, I said, he reminds me of you. He's a blue-collar guy, probably not a lot of stars, lunch pail guy, and he just, he goes to work. He's very kind of humble, quiet about what's going on. He always looks like he's locked in, zoned in, got his body type even more prepared for the gruel of college football. And honestly, he just runs with determination. He runs with fervor. He runs with fire. And what he did to Albany is what he should do. That's what Travis Etienne would do. That's what Delvin Cook would do. So I think, Sean just blowing up and saying, you can't stop me, you can't catch me, you can't out hit me in the open field. So I think, Sean doing what he did, I don't think you could take it away and say, oh, well, it was Albany, because I think against Albany, he showed what good backs would show, which is, hey, guess what? You're not prepared for me.
Exactly.
So I think that was a big part of it. I told you I wanted to see Schrader. I know you said you wanted to see him for at least a half, and I wanted to see him out there. I wanted to get some film. I thought, if Babers is going to let him play at all, he'll let him play against Albany, and we can actually get some good film on him, which was helpful, and I think it was good. I mean, I think showing that Schrader can obviously run and that he can pass the ball. There were some good pieces here. Horrible to see Tommy DeVito go down. He was able to come back, but going down on the field, and I said something to you when he was rushing to the outside, kind of looking for a play. It broke down, and he ran to the right sideline, and he got tackled by two guys on top of him, and he bounced off the turf. And I just, I told you, I was like, that looks like a really hard hit, and it was. And, obviously they looked at him and were able to let him back onto the field. But something you don't want to see, whoever's going to earn the job, you want them to earn it. You don't want them to get it because somebody's hurt.
Right. And then, there's the luxury just to have that second guy back there. But like you say, you don't want it to be because of injury. But, if it had to be a situation where you have a Schrader back there ready to go, it's a good thing to have, because not many teams have a capable backup that can probably go in and have a functional offense.
Well, and the thing is how often has Syracuse been able to say, oh, we have a guy?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that they actually have someone that they could throw in there. So I think, for me to see something of that magnitude, where Syracuse actually has two quarterbacks that are capable of playing in a game, I think fans, if for nothing else, should be happy that they're living in a world that's very different than what we're used to. Ryan Nassib didn't really have somebody behind him. Dungy had DeVito, but, there was a time where it was just Dungy, and then Terrell Hunt had Dungy coming in because Terrell got injured a lot. But, it's like name the guy behind Donovan McNabb, you know what I mean? So it's one of those things that Syracuse has really not been able to say, hey, we have a guy who played in the SEC, who had, good numbers and played a season out there that we can bring in and get 3 years out of potentially is kind of an unheard of thing.
Yeah, and you definitely want both of them to be healthy, because just like you said, I kind of went down memory lane, because when Dungy went down, I think we got almost a quarterback number 5.
Yeah.
That year, and it was just, those guys was just not ready for it. But they went out
fifth string to first, you had Zach Mahoney,
right? So
who almost beat Clemson and almost beat LSU.
Yeah, and put up good numbers against Pittsburgh. So but like you said, we've seen that of this squad where the quarterback position, somebody they always counting on. For some unfortunate reason, they just go down, and now we're playing backups, but. Like you said, Tommy, who had that luxury of being behind Dungy and got a little game experience then. And it's kind of crazy because looking at, we kind of talk about how long Tommy's been in the program, but I was looking at the stat sheet for the starting, how many games you started so far. I think he's only started for like 14, 15 games because he was hurt last year.
Yeah.
And then he had like maybe one season where he kind of went
2019, he had his season when Dungy left.
Right.
And then he filled in for Dungy against like the North Carolinas.
So we say, this is a guy that's been in the program, but he's technically a second-year guy with the number of starts he's had. Not saying anything, making excuses or nothing, but he's still got a lot of growth in the game to learn for himself too. So
and I think we really need to see that maturation process, see that come up, see, where is Tommy? He told me the thing that I said the most that I felt like Rob Drummond and I both said it is that, mentally he just, his mental toughness, his mentality, that his ability to kind of read things and not get shaken, just to have a strong mental health game is what he needed most. And whether he knew I said that or not, when I asked him in fall camp, where's the biggest improvement in your game? He said, it's my mental.
Right.
So, I really want to see that mature. I want to see his check down be an everyday thing. I want to, an every game thing. And I want to see him, really just not simply trust in the strength of his arm, but to actually read the defense, survey the field, at least get a couple reads in there, throw to his check down when he needs to, utilize his backs because they have so many, and somebody's got to be able to catch the ball or they didn't recruit right. So I want to see Tommy just start to, really show that he can command and be more comfortable.
Right. And I think definitely he's the type of quarterback, if he's given the time, all those things will come. But just like any other defensive coach that watched him, they're going to test you in the fire. So they're going to, hey, let's see how he handles pressure.
Yeah.
And that's his next phase of his game is kind of, like you say, that mental part, breaking down the defense, seeing where pressure's coming from, and being on the same page with his receivers. Because, Dino says sometimes it's not always the quarterback. It's a combination of different things, that the reason why a play may break down. But definitely a guy that has an upswing about himself. So, like you said, if he gets his mental part down, I definitely can see, him improving his game.
Yeah, I mean, because he obviously is talented. We know that he could throw the ball.
Right.
And what it comes down to is how accurate is he throwing the ball, his timing, like you said, with his receivers being a part of that, and also not getting flustered by the defense and taking the time to read. Mm-hmm. Because trusting in your arm can work, in a pickup game on an open field somewhere, but when you're playing Division I-A FBS football, being able to read, and that has to do with being protected by his offensive line. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is showing it right now in the NFL. Yeah, he's making some bad throws, and he's overthrowing some guys, and the second quarter looked terrible that they had recently here in their second game, which was their second loss of the season for the Jaguars. But on the other side of that, I look at the fact that the offensive line has left Trevor Lawrence running for his life, and he's going to make mistakes when that happens.
Right. And that's any quarterback, So, and it's going to take the speed of the game for him to get used to it, just like any kid coming out of high school getting to the college level. It's just a different tempo that, once they adjust to it, hopefully, they can take their abilities and go further with it.
Yeah, and looking at kind of where they're at right now, as far as passing goes, through 3 games played, looking at Tommy DeVito and, of course, Garrett Schrader. DeVito in 3 games, 32 completions on 52 attempts, 61.54% completion percentage. Not bad, over 60, right. Almost 62%. 388 yards, 1 passing touchdown in 3 games. Garrett Schrader in 3 games, 16 attempts, for 22 attempts, 16 completions. So you think about it like this. Schrader has half of the completions as DeVito, but he's done it with less than half of the attempts.
Right.
52 attempts gets 32 completions for DeVito. 22 attempts gets 16 for Schrader, which means only 6 incomplete passes. 72.73% completion percentage. But again, this is against Albany and not against the Rutgers of the world. 240 yards and 1 passing touchdown as well. The interesting thing is DeVito's longest pass of the season is 73 yards and Schrader's is 72. What can we take from the fact that Schrader is almost 73% completion percentage when a lot of those attempts came against Albany?
I think just remembering those attempts, some of those came down to checkdowns, kind of something like you said, read the defense, and you take what they give you, I haven't seen him had an opportunity to even really kind of force it down the field just yet, but he's the kind of guy, if the offensive line breaks down, he'll find that running back over the middle or that receiver out in the flat type thing. So, that just says a good thing about him. He knows where his checkdowns are at, and if he can create a play with his feet, because we saw that one play where he scrambled and he threw across his body kind of, and completed a long pass. So he has the ability.
Yeah, no, he definitely does. And I think the thing is, you want to see that separation at this point. Mm-hmm. And the question keeps coming up, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? What are they going to do? And, you still sit here and wait. Is there a clear-cut answer?
Right.
And that's a question that keeps coming up. I do want to make a note, too, for Syracuse football. And I'm just announced attendance at versus Rutgers 31,941 against Albany 30,156.
Right.
Was everyone in the bathroom?
No, I'd give it maybe 2 things: the situation with COVID, and and it is a little stricter to get inside the dome.
But I'm saying 30,000 against Albany. I
it didn't look like the same.
It looked
crowd.
like 15,000.
Right, exactly. Yeah, no, I get you now. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we are known for some late arriving crowds too. You'll get deep into the second quarter and you look around and you're like, oh, okay, here we are.
Yeah, there's usually like one section that gets pretty full and
Right.
then you're like waiting. So,
Right.
But I mean, I do want the fans to come out. I didn't anticipate that they would against Albany, and there's no way that there was 30,000 people there.
Right.
Because there was 33,000 people at the LSU game, and
Really? That's all? 33? It had to be more than that.
it was 33,000.
That place was hot.
I think there was,
it was just maybe just.
I think
the
there was
time of year.
33,000 LSU fans and 146 Syracuse fans.
It had to be.
It was purple and gold everywhere.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It was a lot of, the purple and gold all over the place. So.
Yeah, it was crazy. On the depth chart, we see that Tommy DeVito is still declared the starter, Garrett Schrader the backup. Surprise, not surprise.
No, not surprised.
Yeah.
I think until definitively something really happens where either one of them do something to, not take care of the ball or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
I think it's going to stay the way, I call it the Boeheim effect. You may be on the starting roster, but if something happens, you're going to come out on the bench real quick.
Yeah, when he's like Deion Waiters, you know who my starters are by their minutes.
Right.
So I think if Schrader gets good minutes against Liberty, then Dino's saying something. If he doesn't, then Dino's saying I'm rolling with Tommy.
Exactly.
Interesting thing in the depth chart changing, though, going into this Liberty game as we are previewing Liberty at Syracuse inside the Cafe Cubal Studios on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, an extension of our Monday through Friday normal times of 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Isaac Alford, myself, Dan Tortora, and like I said on our social media, at WakeUpCallDT on Facebook, at CallDT on the Twitter, and on Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT. Stay close after this broadcast to find out why Isaac has been in the studio so much. So we got some good news coming up with Mr. Alford. I'm very excited about it, and so I'm definitely looking forward to doing that, so we're going to do that separately. Interesting changes, one of them being Sean Tucker is still the starter at running back, but Syracuse likes to do the or in their depth chart, and they have Cooper Lutz still second, or Abdul Adams, or Jarvion Howard. Abdul has been placed above Jarvion. I don't know if this was like little Dino Babers basement, like get your way out of the doghouse, but Abdul Adams is third right now on the list. Cooper Lutz, Abdul Adams, and Jarvion Howard all considered a backup to Sean Tucker. Thoughts on Abdul being added to this and the fact that Lutz, Adams, and Howard all have the or right now?
I can see as the season goes along, Adams kind of getting his way up the depth chart. It really doesn't surprise me, but it was one of those things those guys put in the time last year with the team, so they earned that right to be ahead of those guys. Kind of nothing negative against those guys, but as the season goes on, I think all of them are going to be needed, no matter what you say, because it's football and you're going to take your bumps and bruises. So the more fresh legs you can get in there and move around and push the ball down the field. Jarvion had a great run towards the end of the game last week, so those guys got the capabilities of being that number one, but definitely Sean though is showing what he's all about.
And it's about getting those runs, those big-time runs that are going to take the last couple seconds off the clock. I mean, Jarvion, the big-time run, which essentially ended the game. Syracuse has to not only do that in general, but they have to do it against the teams that are going to challenge them more.
Right.
We're not... the last time Syracuse condensed the clock by running the ball, they had Adonis Amin Moore. And then, for some odd reason, they stopped doing it. It was like, oh, Adonis is a wrecking ball. Let's never use it again. Didn't make any sense to me. And I love you, Adonis. Awesome dude. By the way, he looks like one of my favorite rappers, Mason Betha, as he knows, because I tell him all the time. Wide receiver-wise, a little bit of changes here. Damian Alford, your long-lost relative, he got his first ever touchdown with Syracuse in this last game, a big-time one in single coverage where he broke away and chased down the left sideline. He is behind Sherrod Johnson. Anthony Quealy has Aronde Gatson, the second, a true freshman, behind him. And Taj Harris has Courtney Jackson behind him, or Trevor Pena. Surprised that Courtney Jackson maybe isn't one of these starting line wide receivers.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of thought coming in this year it was going to be his time in the slot. But they moved Taj to the slot. So, and the surprise is Sherrod is on the outside, which is good for him if he worked hard to earn that slot. So, but that was kind of my eye opener. But like you said, Damian Alford got his chance to get in there, and that's what I want to see last game. I want to see some of these other receivers get their opportunity to get in and get that game emotion going, because I think those guys are going to be in ACC play a benefit. You can't teach that size. I mean, that's just God given. So it's time for those guys to get in the lineup and play and move around and play and kind of get their confidence up, because I don't know how often do they really target Johnson. I know he's out there, but you can bring some other things, pass blocking and all this other run blocking with all these other guys that got size. So, but yeah, Courtney was one of those guys I kind of had my eye on when he came in as a recruit. Just watching his high school film, he was one of those fast guys coming out of Pennsylvania. So I know he caught a couple passes so far this year, so I'm anticipating him hopefully soon have a breakout game, and that just gives the defense another weapon on the field that you got to pay attention to.
And the thing that I also I'm looking at in this respect is Syracuse doesn't throw phase anymore. They don't throw any passes to the corners of the end zones and let a guy go up for it. By the way, just to make a note, because you talked about height and you can't teach height, Damian Alford is 6'6", and Aronde Gadsden the second is 6'5", and Syracuse has not thrown, I think, one pass up to let a guy go jump ball, get it.
So. Right, and definitely we've seen other DBs that we're going against. They're 5'8", 5'10", some 6'2", but not often do you can match that height. And that catch radius, I want to see that. Like you said, that maybe they're holding it for some reason. I don't know, but you've even got Luke Benson with some size for a tight end. So definitely, they got the pieces. It's time to get those guys acclimated and adjusted into the game.
Yeah, and Isaac and I almost passed out when the first pass of the game was to Luke Benson.
Yeah.
And not only that, but he was utilized a couple times to involve himself in first downs. And I was like, wow, okay, so when they play Albany, you're going to bring out the tight end, but why not utilize him when he's already proven himself? And so did Aaron Hackett, who's with TCU now. Two guys that I loved the jump pass, so they kind of fake it and throw it over the top and let them go for it in the end zone. I felt like they were like 81% effective, and yet we didn't see it that much. I think both of these guys should be, 10 touchdowns, 8 touchdowns when they were together. Now that Luke Benson's there and Maximilian Mang is here playing as well, I would like to see them utilize the tight end more. Again, one of those things where you just kind of scratch your head. I'm happy they're using the rushing attack more because they have no excuse.
Right.
As I said, they have 5 if you include Josh Huff coming from Beaverton, Pennsylvania as a true freshman. So you have no excuse on not running the ball, and now you are running the ball, but here's my issue. You're running the ball, but now you're not using the tight end. Why can't you do both? And I think the Syracuse football successful teams of old under Coach Mack and Paul Pasqualoni and whatnot, they utilized the tight end and the running back, and they just out-gridded teams.
Right. But you know what? And it could be a couple of things that I was kind of thinking about this coming over. It could be some teams maybe still not believing that, Syracuse's line is going to push them out. Because when we get into ACC play, we're going to find out whether we got to bring that extra guy in the box. Because Sean is putting himself on tape. So now it's time for the defensive coordinator to say, okay, he's the real deal. We need to adjust. And then when they make that adjustment, what would Dino and his crew make,
Yeah.
So once you stop bringing people down in the box, and if Sean's not getting that same kind of daylight, you got to take advantage of, the linebacker too close to the line and go over the top of the middle or something like that. So that's definitely going to be a good adjustment if we can see that later in the season.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, and that's something that Rob Drummond brought up. He said, listen, people are going to start keying in on Sean Tucker. He's not a secret anymore, so how is Dino going to adjust to that?
Right.
Now that you're finally running the ball. And I said, because this makes sense to me, and I don't know, I'm not a coach,
right.
But I'm just going to throw this out there. Why Syracuse doesn't run a split-back situation with Sean Tucker and Abdul Adams out there, a defense is not going to know which way to go. Mm-hmm. So I think, to me, if you want to use Sean successfully when teams start to key in on him, start going split back. You already have Tommy in the shotgun. Put 2 guys next to him and give him the opportunity to fake it and throw, or to either go right or go left and set up the guys on opposite. I just think you're going to give defenses fits if you have Abdul on one side and Sean on the other, even Cooper and Jarvion Howard, any of the guys with Sean. I think that's going to give you the opportunity to really catch people off guard because I don't think they're going to know where the ball's going.
Right, exactly. It's all about showing some kind of different formation because sooner or later, teams are going to figure out what your bread and butter is. So you got to have those options. What I like, though, in the last game is they put Aaron back at center. So I think that was a good move. Maybe the new offensive line coach looked at some old film because now you got your most experienced lineman there in the middle.
Grandpa.
Exactly.
I call him Grandpa, and I found out that Bleish calls him Grandpa, too, which is really cool.
So that is a good thing with him and Bleish right next to each other.
Yeah.
You're becoming more stronger up the middle because we know they like to run the ball up the middle. But, I think that was a good move, and hopefully that can solidify the line even better, and get some more of the combinations. But to me, that was a huge adjustment.
I want to show you guys my surprise face that they moved Aaron Service again. Because when I talked to him going into camp, I was like, he's like, no, I've been at right tackle. And I'm like, we'll see. We'll see. He's played left tackle, right tackle, and center. And just a couple games in, he has moved Vettorello, and he's now center. As you said, the most experienced guy is there with his quarterback. And then Bleish still left guard. Bergeron came in early in his career and started to electrify as a freshman at left tackle. And then Darius Tisdale, still trying to figure out that right guard situation that has been left wide open ever since my fifth-year dude, my stud, that was brought in by Joe Adam, Evan Adams, is not there anymore. And then, big dude. Love him. 300+. And then Carlos Vettorello is on the right tackle side now, which is still more open. And I feel like you don't really see the running backs run to the right now, and that's because that's where the question marks are the most.
Right.
I feel like you want to run toward, Bleish and see if Service and Bleish can open it up in Bergeron. I feel like if you're Sean Tucker, I'm not trying to disrespect the right guard and the right tackle. It's just if you look at the film and you look at how they've done so far, I would be running left 70-30, maybe 80-20.
Right, definitely. Then, like you said, you bring that two black back option. Maybe then that's when you fake it to one.
I was like, you got to play two black? What is it? Huh? Bet on black? What? Can we tell Dino to play? Dino, huh?
But definitely you can play off of that now. The team see that on tape now that your strength is to the left side of the line. Now it's time to counter that. So, I definitely like that move and to see how far it takes them. Because, I don't know what they saw on the film, but definitely you want to be strong up the middle.
Yeah, and I want to actually take the time for Rain and Monster, who are here with us in the studio. I want to thank Rain. I've been traveling a lot, and I was up for almost a complete 24 hours. So, Rain, thank you. Driving to the Marywood Golf Tournament on Monday at 8:30 in the morning, and then pulling into my driveway after 6 a.m. the next day. So thank you to Rain Inferno, Watermelon Warlord, and Red Dragon have kept this boy like, has kept me awake, and it tastes really good. So thank you, and much appreciation. By the way, I'm a lightweight. It takes me like a full day to drink. This is like it takes me a day and a half to maybe drink a full one. So.
All in moderation. You don't want to chug it too fast.
No. Well, that's the thing. I'm a child, and I'm like, tasty, but it's an energy drink, so you're supposed to be moving around and shaking, and so make sure that you're doing that. But I want to thank my car buddy Rain and Rain Inferno for what they for having that by my side, and I want to thank Rain Body Fuel for being a part of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. So thank you very much. On the defensive side of the ball, Josh Black has Cody Roscoe behind him. Cody is going to be featured on TGIF the day of the game, Liberty at Syracuse. I have so many surprises. It's like an Easter basket when you keep going underneath that fake grass. It's like, oh, another Cadbury egg? What? Reese's? Baby Ruth. And for all the people, because most people don't like Baby Ruth, I love that you hate it because you always give it to me. Dan, if you give me your Fifth Avenue, I'll give you 9 of my Baby Ruths. I'm like, Fifth Avenue's gross. I was like, I will take all of them, babe. They're like, do you eat this? I was like, oh, like when you were trading cards as a kid, I'm like, oh, man, I guess I could.
Yeah, poker face.
Yeah. So Cody Roscoe is going to be featured on my show. 2 separate conversations with him. Really cool stuff. Cody Roscoe last season had 2 sacks the entire season. and his last one came toward the end of the season, I think, against NC State. This season, in 3 games, he already has 3.5 sacks. Best season at getting to the quarterback so far, and he's been really awesome. And even though he's behind Josh Black, we know that him and Caleb Okechukwu and their roommates behind Kingsley Jonathan and Josh Black, that there's a rotation on the defensive line that we get to see these guys. So Caleb and Cody being backups really doesn't mean anything. They've been pretty awesome and pretty explosive.
Yeah, definitely. Like I want to say the same thing. A good rotation, those 6 right there. Because you always got to keep those guys fresh and stuff. But yeah, Cody had an awesome game last week. Getting to the quarterback, pressuring him if he wasn't sacking him. So
yeah,
definitely welcome to see. Because we've seen it. If you can't get pressure on the quarterback without bringing extra bodies, then that's just going to open it up for the defense. But I think that's the key right there. If those 3 men up front can get pressure by themselves, then hey, the sky's the limit to what you can do with the linebackers to bring extra pressure if it needs to be.
Yeah, and a big shout out to my guy, and a shout out to his family that I've been able to connect with over the years. And that is Curtis Harper, who is on this depth chart at D-tackle, starting in front of McKinley Williams. So Curtis Harper getting the start, again, him and McKinley both playing. So really on this D-line where they have 3 sets of hands in the dirt, Josh Black, Cody Roscoe, Kingsley Jonathan, Caleb Okechukwu at the defensive end positions are all playing. And Curtis Harper and McKinley Williams are both playing at D-tackle. But I want to shout out Curtis Harper for working his butt off and, hearing from his family that he'd get his way out there, and heard his name a time or 2 against Albany, and now he's earned the starting role to at least get out there first when we see them play against Liberty.
Yeah, definitely. Good to see this young man get his opportunity. He sat behind some good ones and was able to learn from some of the senior leadership that was ahead of him, and now it's time to go out there and ball out.
Yeah, and then we look at the linebacker situation. Stefan Thompson has obviously had himself a nice start here. Marlo Wax is a beast. I really appreciate Marlo Wax Jr. Even when I don't request him, he just come over and tap me. He's, hi, Dan, how you doing?
Right.
Hi, sir. So just all respect and love from so many of these guys. And Michael Jones, he is who he is, and he's such a leader. And it's funny because I've been around NFL teams around the country, and I can honestly tell you that the way that Michael kind of handles the media, I already see the NFL in him.
Right. Yeah. Some people, they have that natural instinct inside them where you could tell, the leadership qualities that they have and the respect they get on with their teammates.
Yeah. And Garrett Williams, we have heard that, and he actually said going into this game that he was working with the trainer and that they would see if he's going to be playing in this one. He has been not 100%, pretty much the majority of the 3 games this season. We haven't not seen him, but he goes out.
Right.
So, Adrian Cole and company and Neil Nunn got to step up. God willing, Garrett Williams will, whatever, his nagging injury, he'll be okay, and he'll stay well. Jihad Carter still doing his thing. Eric Coley got some time and got a tackle in the game, like seeing that. Rob Hanna still at Rover, Justin Barron there. And then at free safety, we have Jason Simmons, and Ben LaBrose has left the team.
Yeah.
And now I understand why when I asked to interview him a couple weeks ago, he was in a class. So,
far away.
I was like, oh, he had a class in Chattanooga? And then Deuce Chestnut, obviously, there on the other side of Garrett Williams, who has really stepped up as a true freshman. And the good, it's a good and bad thing. I don't want to say it's a bad thing, but it's when you're a true freshman, normally you're not starting on a good team.
Right.
But when a team, has struggled and had a 1-10 season, you have one of the lures of Syracuse is, hey, if you come here, you could start right away instead of sitting on the bench.
Right.
The other part of it is Syracuse lost so much in their secondary, and they leaned so heavily on it in the 3-3-5 that Deuce coming, you got a 1-10 season, plus you lose Iffy, and you lose Trill, and obviously you lose Cisco at safety. So that opened up the opportunity even more so to say, okay, they're 1-10, so the defense did some good things, but you lose talent, you don't win games. It gives Deuce an open opportunity, and Deuce has definitely taken that opportunity, and he's made some rookie mistakes as you can expect.
Right.
But at the same time, he's also been a little bit of a nuisance, and I hope that only becomes more apparent Deuce, I think the nicest thing I can say to you is I hope you continue to piss people off in the ACC.
Exactly.
And in Liberty.
Exactly. Because from what I saw through summer camp, every time I watched the highlight, the young man was coming down with a pick in practice.
Yeah.
And stuff, and he proved himself. He's got the confidence. You can see it on him. And even Coach Babers, I think it was like the first defensive series, and he did a great play on the outside where he didn't fall for the okie doke on the wheel route, and he stuck with his man, and Dean dapped him up for that. So the guy's got football smarts, and he's going to get challenged. He's going to get tested because, like you say, he's a true freshman. But I don't see him shying away from the challenge.
Well, and that's one of the guys that Dino's got to lean on recruiting wise and be like, I brought that guy in. You know what I mean? So that's a golden, kind of a golden opportunity for Dino to hang his hat on that.
Yeah.
And and then in special teams, Trevor Pena, kick returner and punt returner, he wants to catch everything. He wants to field every punt, and he catches it in traffic to the point where he makes me incredibly nervous. However, his hands are incredible. And I thought that I've seen some good hands with Sean Riley and some of my other guys that have been, out there catching balls. One out, Richie Desir, what'd you say?
Your Brisley Esteem.
In Brisley Esteem. But Trevor Pena might have the best of the bunch hands, arguably, because for some odd reason, I feel like he likes to be put in a horrible traffic jam. Like, he likes being on the George Washington Bridge, essentially. He loves the traffic. So.
Yeah. Well, I heard somebody else mention that about punt returners, because I followed Brian Mitchell, the famous punt returner for Washington. He's like, you got to have something wrong with you to be a punt returner.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's just not the normal thing to have 11 guys coming down at you. And if you're fearless enough and you can catch that ball and I think that play where they even called it back on that flag, he took that one cut instead of where most people would try to run to the sideline.
Oh, yeah, we were talking about that.
He just stuck his foot in the ground and went up the middle. And once he broke that first wave, it was just all open. So you could tell he has the instincts. It's just a matter of, he's just got to get used to the different style punters, because I think that's what the Rutgers punters was doing, that little Australian style kicking, and he went over his head one time, and, all that'll come with more playing time and the different styles and stuff like that. But he's definitely a good guy to have back there.
No, he is, and Trevor Pena is definitely, was excited on social media last year, to get out there and just the support that we saw of, the people that appreciate him and were excited that he was going to get on the field and kind of found his place. And that's why I think, as much as you want to protect players in this game, in this barbaric sport, it's important to know that guys like Trevor Pena, I mean, that's where he gets his opportunities. That's, your fourth string corner, your fifth string running back, your fourth string wide receiver, fifth string, sixth string wide receiver. These are the guys that get those opportunities at kick return and punt return. And without special teams, there would be a lot of people that don't have jobs.
Right, and that's the third of
scholarship.
That's a third of the game too.
Yeah.
That's a very important.
And
phase.
the most important part of the game when it comes to field positioning.
Right, exactly.
Which people forget about all the time.
Right, because if you can flip that field, what you told me, anything over 10 yards or punt returns?
Yeah, I was like literally anything like 5 to 10 yards. Right. I'm impressed.
Right, because we've seen it plenty of times where it's just fair catch and here you go. So, but. He definitely is a guy to keep your eye on. Didn't he take one back against Notre Dame last year? Why am I thinking he took a kick or punt something back against Notre Dame last year? It was kind of one of those welcome to your college moment, I mean, I know the Notre Dame game wasn't the outcome we wanted, but I thought he had a bright spot in that game.
He returned last year the NC State kickoff.
Was it the NC State? Okay.
Yeah, he returned the NC State kickoff, and so that was his thing, Trevor Pena, doing that. Yeah, because I think it was like the first time in 172 years since since Syracuse. But yeah, it's been a long time
since Mike Holmes in Pittsburgh, I believe. That's the last time I've seen it in the dome.
Long time. So yeah, and this was actually in the dome that Trevor Pena did it. We're watching it in the studio right now. So yeah, you see him cut to the outside, and he just outran everybody. He kind of like hesitated for a second to see where the guys were going to go, and 2 guys were next to him, but he was able to outrun him and see his window, and he actually made it look incredibly easy, which I love. So Trevor Pena has been a lot of fun to watch, and I think he's one of those guys that you cheer for because he, again, has found his place on this team to just be like, hey, you know what? When those balls come back, I'm going to make you hate the fact that you kicked him in.
Right. Oh, and I got to say, I apologize to Dorian Graham because that was a Friday night kick return on West Virginia, if you remember that, on a Friday night.
Dorian Graham.
Yeah, he took it back. I mean, I think I watched that highlight I don't know how many times because it was just, he made a cut in the middle of the field that I'm like, I don't know how he saw that guy or whatever his peripheral, but once he made that cut back to the center against West Virginia, he just took it to the house, and the amazing thing was when he was running, he was looking back, still running. I was like, who does that? So, but we always knew he had that athletic ability. He was one of those guys that kind of like that. Shamarko Thomas was like a freak kind of guy. He had that speed and stuff. But yeah, he definitely was a burner, and he had his opportunity to get. He played a little bit of receiver, but then hey, he got his chance on the kick return that Friday night.
Back at the 1987 team too, which is really awesome. But yeah, special teams. Jacksonville just did it. I mean, they started 0-2, but 102-yard kick return. It had been a while for them as well. So just to see something like that, and it's so difficult to do because you're fighting the whole field.
Right.
I mean, everybody's in front of you. All your teammates are in front of you, and all of your opponents are in front of you.
Right.
So, there's 20...
and the refs are out there, too, with the flags.
So you got 21 people in front of you in the end zone hoping that your guys block and the other ones don't get through and that you make the right decisions in a split second, and the officials are out there. So you got almost 30 people staring at you running this ball back. So,
right. And it just takes that one undisciplined person, whether they go wide or too far in, that'll create that opportunity for you. So yeah.
And it takes that one undisciplined person who makes you really pissed off when you're getting oxygen on the sideline and they call it back for an illegal block in the back.
Yeah.
Or if you're Syracuse, you have 164 yards in penalties, tying a record and this is not even okay. To have 16 penalties in a game is bad. To tie a record of when you did it before is worse, and to do it against Albany is making teams like NC State like,
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like 16 penalties, and and somebody said it to me today, Pat Orr from PB&J's Lunchbox, the owner out there. Go see her at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York, Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner served all day. She said, when you see penalties, that means a team is undisciplined.
Right, exactly. Undisciplined, and late in that game, they got some inexperienced guys out there that got a little bit of chance to get on the field. But like Dino said, there was some experienced guys out there, too, that got a couple of those calls against them, too. So, but you know what? Yeah, definitely they got to clean that aspect of the game,
And that, I think what's concerning to me is that, 16 penalties is disgusting. 164 yards is almost a field and a half. And on top of that, I told you on that one drive, they blew the touchdown because of a penalty, and then they blew a field goal before Schmidt kicked the 48-yard after the 43-yard made it. And I said, there's 10 points they left on the field on one possession.
Exactly.
And against a good team, you're not going to win the game.
No, you definitely won't.
And turning the ball over and penalizing yourself are the easiest ways to, give yourself an injection. It's the easiest ways for you to be your own staff member working on Tyrod Taylor that accidentally nicks him with the knee, though. I'm like Tyrod in Houston. Every time I'd be in like the training room, the lights go off. It's like, I know what you did last summer, huh? So, and Tyrod now, I'm like, he's on the injury report again, and he's like, did Davis Mills know that same guy that Justin Herbert knew? So, but shout out to Davis Mills. I mean, they draft him in, I think, the 3rd round. And coming out of Stanford as a rookie, and being able to start 3 weeks into the NFL season is pretty cool.
That is cool. You always got to be ready because you never know when your opportunity is going to come. So, that is cool.
One of the most confusing situations ever, Deshaun Watson being brought up on 20-some-odd charges, no decision being made, almost a year going by. He looked like he wanted to be traded, allegedly, and then all this stuff came out that made him untradeable, and then they said maybe they would trade him, and then he's on the roster and he's healthy, but he's not playing, and no decisions being made legally or in the NFL, and he's still not playing. So it's just literally from starting quarterback, former Clemson phenom to some people, to will he ever play again?
Right. Is he still getting paid?
Probably.
Yeah.
Still on the roster.
Yeah. If I'm getting paid, I guess I can sit. But that is bad. I love Deshaun Watson. So, you hate to see that situation he's in. And, somebody need to make a decision, whether it's on the law enforcement side or the justice system or whatever it got to be, to have that man out in limbo like that. His life is on his line. You know what I'm saying? So
I'm not going to say that I understand this, but it's...
I know where you go. You don't have to say it.
It's taking longer than an annulment process. You knew I was going there? Okay. Well, that means Isaac's gotten to know me well enough. It's taking longer than an annulment process. And Lord knows that Isaac and I will be sitting here and there's two skeletons with hats on. But let's go to the other side with Liberty. Mm-hmm. And after that perfect segue, annulment, Liberty. So, Liberty, want my freedom. So, looking at Auburn, which is where Malik Willis came from, he was on Auburn from 2017 and 2018 seasons, only attempted 7 passes those 2 seasons, ran the ball pretty well. He ran the ball in 2017 16 times for 221 yards. Some people run 16 times for 16 yards. So 13.8 yards a carry and a touchdown. In 2018, 12 carries for 88 yards, 7.3 yards a carry and a touchdown. And then he comes to Liberty, transfers from Auburn, comes to Liberty, becomes their starting quarterback. And last season, when he beat Syracuse in Virginia Tech and almost NC State, 64.2%, all on the road, by the way, 64.2% completion percentage, 2,260 yards, 20 touchdowns to a mere 6 interceptions, longest pass play, 83 yards, and had 170 completions of 265 attempts. And to go with that, 141 rushing attempts. So think about this. 170 passing completions, 141 rushing attempts. Altogether, his passing attempts and rushing attempts, 265 and 141 for those of you playing the home game. 406 attempts on the field, 944 yards rushing on 141 attempts, 6.7 yards a carry, and 14 rushing touchdowns. Gave him 34 touchdowns last season and over 3,000 yards from scrimmage. And this year, he's already 49 of 69, 71% completion percentage, which is his best ever of having more than 60 attempts, 613 yards, 7 touchdowns, no interceptions coming into the game against Syracuse. Ran 34 times for 225 yards, 6.6 yards per carry, 4 touchdowns already this season. The man has 11 touchdowns, almost 7 yards a carry, and has almost accumulated 1,000 yards all-purpose. I'm venturing to saying that last year was great for Malik Willis, and this year looks like it could be even better.
Yeah, they already talking first-round draft pick here. So, he's putting the numbers on the field, but you know the best way to stop all those numbers? Keep him on the sideline, talking to the coordinator, and you eating up the clock.
Run the ball.
Don't give him an opportunity to get out there and put those numbers up on you. If that's the game plan, we need to keep our offense out there on that field with the time of possession, because we can't afford to give this young man anytime you give him an opportunity, you never know what's going to happen. So he's the athlete. Yeah, that we know what a good running and throwing quarterback can do. When we had Eric Dungey, this is their version of Dungey. The guy comes in and. After year 1 when we beat them, you see what year 2 happens when he comes to the Dome and puts on the show. You mentioned he had a longest pass play of 83 yards. Was that long play against Syracuse, or we don't know that?
And we go back and look at the game log here.
Does it?
I didn't want to do.
I saw a highlight before I came.
Yeah.
Of a long pass that was completed, and
the game against Liberty was painful for Syracuse fans to watch because Liberty, and this is no disrespect to Liberty, Syracuse of the past would schedule a Liberty team like an Albany team to beat them by 20, 30, and go on with their day. So against Syracuse, the long pass play he had against Syracuse was 36 yards. The 83-yarder was against Western Carolina.
Okay.
So just to take a look at this from last year, Malik Willis, looking at Liberty's regular season, 45-0 win over UMass at home, 66.7% completion percentage, 3 touchdowns, no picks, and a touchdown on the ground, 9 yards a carry. In a loss to NC State, 15-14 on the road, 40.6% completion percentage, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and ran the ball for 2.9 yards a carry. Against Western Carolina, 73.7% completion percentage, 3 touchdowns, no picks, 2 touchdowns on the ground, 12.1 yards a carry. Averaging attack in a win there, 66.7% completion percentage, 3 touchdowns, no picks, touchdown on the ground, 5.7 yards carry, over 108 yards rushing. Against Southern Mississippi, he had 77.4% completion percentage, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a touchdown on the ground. Accounted for 7 touchdowns in that game in a 56-35 win. And that's insane. And then we look at Syracuse, where he had a touchdown through the air, 80% completion percentage, his best of the season, which he did twice. He did it against FIU as well. 1 touchdown through the air, 1 on the ground, no interceptions. Against Louisiana Monroe, he had 37.9% completion percentage, no touchdowns, and an interception, but he did have a touchdown on the ground. FIU, 80%, like I said before, 2 touchdowns, no picks. And that against Western Kentucky, he had 61.9% completion percentage, 3 rushing touchdowns, no passing touchdowns, really didn't need it. So looking at last year, he had a rushing touchdown in all but 2 of his games, and he had more touchdowns than, he had a touchdown, at least 1 touchdown to no interceptions in 6 of his games last year. And 3 of those, 3 touchdowns, no picks. 1 of them, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. And, of course, the instant classic overtime win over Coastal Carolina, 37-34, in the FBC Mortgage Cure Bowl. 65.5% completion percentage, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, but 4 rushing touchdowns. 137 yards on the ground on 21 attempts, 6.5 yards a carry. Basically what I'm trying to say is, even if his numbers are terrible passing, he's still getting in the end zone. There's not a game where he didn't get in the end zone either by rushing or passing the ball. Even in his worst passing games, he was still an efficient running back.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But what I kind of, as you was going through that, I was looking at the NC State game where he had 3 picks and 3 sacks. So if I'm the defensive coordinator of Syracuse University, I'm pulling up that game tape. You know what? And not only just because of the performance, but NC State also runs a 3-3-5.
Yeah.
Not to say you got to mirror what NC State did, but you need to bring some.
I'd be mirroring some stuff. Dave Doran's good.
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm not saying this. No, that's a bad thing. But I'm just saying you got to play your style of defense. But you kind of can watch what they did against this guy. I mean, like you said, he's going to still get his, but they did some things obviously that probably gave those guys some trouble. And, they got some good athletes in NC State too, so that also helps too. You can't just everything ain't always scheme. You got to be able to go toe-to-toe with these guys. So, yeah.
Yeah, and the Liberty Flames, outside of Malik Willis and what he's been able to do this season, make a note here of their rushing attack. If you try to key in on him, mind you, Syracuse has struggled against dual-threat quarterbacks for a very long time, no matter who the head coach is or who the defensive players are. However, somehow, some way, and this is a credit to the talent of those 6 gentlemen that we talked about, from Josh Black, Caleb Okechukwu, as well as Cody Roscoe, Kingsley Jonathan, McKinley Williams, and Curtis Harper, that 3 in the front instead of 4 guys in the front, they have attacked the quarterback feverishly to start things off, and people talk about, well, they don't have a ton of takeaways. This is the first time I've seen them sack the quarterback and hurry the quarterback and really pressure him this well since Schaefer's all-out blitz defense.
Right. And I think that's another appeal of the 3-3-5, because now, you got 3 guys down the line, but you still got those linebackers that can cause havoc, and we got some good ones. They're not no slouches back there. Those 3 linebackers back there can bring it just as well, and that's what I like about it, because, 1 minute they could be dropping back, or that's the extra rusher, whether it be up the middle or off the end. So, and by the way, it's the 4th-ranked defense coming into this game of total defense so far in the season. So for total yardage. So this game, again, we already told you everything that Willis can do.
Yeah.
Now you got a defense. So he want to prove himself against this defense. And the same thing with this defense. They see what he did last year. So, hey, let's see if we can have a better outcome this time around. So.
And Syracuse doesn't want them laying on the orange S at the end of the game. Right. And there's actually fans in the stands. Because people are like, well, they did that at the Liberty. I was like, yeah, you should be happy that no fans were allowed in the Dome for that game.
Right.
First time that Liberty ever beat an ACC team, and Syracuse will go down in history as the first time that happened, which is not the way you want to go. And obviously Virginia Tech became the second.
Right.
But, this is a Liberty team that came into fruition football, I believe, in the 21st century. They're young.
Right.
And so, to be a young football team and be able to come out and do that, and I don't think it was disrespectful at all for them to run out after the game and lay on the orange S and take a bunch of pictures. If it was me and I made history like that, I'd be taking snapshots in every corner of the field. So.
Right, yeah. And at least says something about your program if somebody's that happy to beat you.
Yeah, when people stop taking pictures.
Yeah, exactly. That's when you need to be concerned, when they walk off the field.
Say when people from Mexico are like, I don't want to cross the border anymore, then America's in trouble.
Exactly.
When people are going, I think I'm going to stay in Mexico.
Exactly.
I like the water here. So that's when it's going to be an issue. One of the guys that's still on the team this year, fans aren't going to like this, Shedro Lewis. This is a guy who had a nice day against Syracuse last year. He's got 4.6 yards a carry, a rushing touchdown, 17 attempts with 81 yards. Josh Mack, TJ Green also involved. Shedro Lewis, though, one of those guys coming into the game where I think it was, okay, who's going to get the ball and what can we expect from a guy like Shedro Lewis?
Yes.
And looking back at what he was able to do, if we go back to his game log from last season, Shedro was a highlight reel guy against Syracuse in that win that Liberty had over the Orange in the Dome. And that game by Shedro, going back and looking at it, he had 10 carries for 170 yards, 17 yards a carry, 2 touchdowns, a reception for 10 yards. So he had 180 yards, 17 yards a carry, and his longest carry was 75 yards and 2 scores.
Yeah, I didn't know the guy's name, but when you click and I want to see what his number was, I remember number 1 for some reason. So that's how much of an impact.
I was like, well, they made Shedro Lewis look like a friggin' champion.
Right.
So.
I'm like, why didn't we recruit that guy? That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Well, do what you got to do,
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's somebody like, and the thing is, he's a little guy.
Yeah.
He's a little guy, scrappy guy. And, very effective. He is the same height as me, 5'8". Mm-hmm. He's got some pounds on me, though. And he comes from, I don't think, I've never been in this part of Florida, Immokalee, Florida. Have no idea where that is. Mm. But when we go back and look at this game, just because, I don't know, I feel like we need to. So fans, don't be mad at me.
Do I need to watch this again?
38-21 win, Liberty on the road against Syracuse. And in their rushing attack, I want to say Syracuse gave up 300 yards rushing cumulatively. I want to look at this here. But as we bring this thing up,
when you look up that, I want to see time of possession, too.
Yeah, I was right. 338 yards rushing allowed by Syracuse's defense on 48 attempts for Liberty, 7 yards a carry as a team with 4 rushing touchdowns. Malik Willis, 12 carries for 58 yards, 4.8 yards a carry and a touchdown. Mm-hmm. Peyton Pickett, who's not there anymore, 23 carries, 115 yards, 5 yards a carry and a touchdown. And as I said, Shedro Lewis, 10 carries, 170 yards, 17 yards a carry and 2 touchdowns. Every one of the players that ran the ball including their quarterback, Malik Willis, scored a rushing touchdown. And they had, and I remember this too, 2 backs that had over 100 yards rushing in the same game.
Right.
Just to make everybody feel good.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we know what we're getting ourselves into, so there's no sneak attack this year. So, hey, but does it have the log for total plays or time of possession? I'm just curious if that.
Yeah,
that's
we can look that up.
You know.
So, yep, total plays. Let's see here. Time of possession, Liberty 36 minutes and 24 seconds. Syracuse 23 minutes and 36 seconds. So they had the ball for almost 13 minutes longer. So they had the ball for essentially a quarter longer than Syracuse.
Yeah, and that's a quarter longer. Your defense out there. You can't. I mean, and that's explains why you got 2 guys running for 100 yards.
Yeah.
You know,
and Syracuse 10 penalties for 80 yards. So
right.
Another thing there that we see, and total yardage. 520 for Liberty, 308 for Syracuse. On that efficiency, neither team was good on third down. Liberty was 3 of 12. Syracuse was 3 of 14. Both teams good on fourth down. Liberty 2 of 2. Syracuse 2 of 4. I think anything 50% or better. And I think if you complete any fourth downs, that's a good thing, even if you're 1 of 3. I do want to make note here that Syracuse's quarterback last season was Rex Culpepper. Tommy was hurt.
Right.
So Rex was actually there. So Liberty is going to see a quarterback that they have not played against before in 2
years.
Yeah, in 2
Tommy
years.
Beat him down there.
Yeah, so they haven't seen Tommy in a while, and they've never seen Garrett. So.
Right. So,
and if we go back to that game where Syracuse, see, this is one of those things where Syracuse created the home and home to have a win every year.
Right.
And last year you could pick you could keep one of your non-conference games, and they had Western Michigan. They're like, no, let that go. Tim Lester, whatever. They let them all go, and they kept Liberty. And now Syracuse is going. It's like now when you roll that dice because you do that home and home series.
It was COVID. I'm tired. I don't want to play this game. Because I guess they thought they was going to win.
Because they weren't Florida State. Right? So, but when you go back and you look at this, and Syracuse went to Liberty in 2019, won 24-0 in that game. And to go back and look at it, Tommy DeVito has faced them. It was 2 years ago.
Right.
He faced them on the road, has never faced them in the Dome, and it's been a couple of years since they played each other. This was the opening game of the 2019 season for both teams.
Not really.
DeVito had 176 yards, 17 of 35, which was less than 50% passing, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So not a good stat line for DeVito. However, Jarvion Howard, Abdul Adams, who will be in this game as well, had a touchdown. Mo Neal had one. The 3 touchdowns were what Syracuse needed. They ran the ball against Liberty, and they came up with it. I want to make note here that Liberty had negative 4 yards on 34 carries in Syracuse's win against them, and last year had 338 yards and 7 yards a carry in their win. So if we're playing the home game of who was the MVP of the most improved team,
right.
Negative 4 yards to 338. I don't think you can get any better. I don't even know if Alabama can get better than that.
No, definitely. I mean, Malik Willis, hey, that changes the game right there, And then when you're not, and that's another thing you just mentioned, when you're down your starting quarterback,
it
really doesn't help, Rex did everything he could, and I was glad the guy, young man got his opportunity to play. But, I mean, again, that speaks for itself, when you coming in with a SEC guy that just transferred in and he can motivate his team, and you see the type of numbers they can put up. Now, can your team match it? That's what happens. So now, like you say, hey, this is time to come in tomorrow night and try to build on those numbers. Because I think that was his first start, right? That wasn't his. Was it his first start?
It was his first official
start because he came in.
It was his first official non-Dungy, this is your team.
Right, because the time he came in the year,
Dungy
started against Florida State, but he played from the second quarter and finished the game.
Yeah.
He came in and saved the North Carolina game.
Yeah.
So he really didn't have an official start, I don't think. That was his first one.
So Tommy coming out for this game, first time that the team was his. Numbers were not good. And Syracuse was playing against a Liberty team that wasn't running well, didn't have Malik Willis, had Stephen Calvert as their quarterback who had no touchdowns and 2 interceptions as well, and 20 of 39. So you go back and you look at this and you say, Syracuse's win over Liberty, Tommy didn't look good, they didn't have Malik Willis, they didn't have Shedro Lewis. So Liberty obviously has gotten better over time, and now we have to see if Tommy can prove that he's gotten better over time if he's going to be the main guy out there against him.
Right, and they also had Hugh Freeze sitting up in the press box in a bed. That kind of, I know they probably want to play for the coach, but again, how much can you coach from the press box laying in the bed, So definitely, that takes it a toll too. So, but I'm definitely, like I said, I want to see. This game is going to definitely be a good barometer to see kind of where they're going to go in the ACC. Like I said, Liberty could just well be any team in the ACC. So,
and from Lynchburg, Virginia, they'd be the third Virginia team in the ACC.
Right.
Thoughts, or who is the offensive the offensive catalyst for Syracuse in this game, and who's the defensive catalyst for Syracuse?
Offensive catalyst is definitely. I'm gonna go with a group offensive line because what they do for Sean Tucker. It got to be those guys, and not just for him passing game too, but if they can consistently grow on that performance from last week and put that out, they definitely, for me, the offensive line. Defensively, I want to say one of either defensive ends, because like you say, read option. Willis gonna either put it or pull it, and if who's falling for the okie doke on that play? Can we contain him and keep him in the middle of the field or in the pocket and make him? He can throw it, but not beat you with his legs as much. So I'm gonna say one of the defensive ends. Whoever they choose to attack, are they up to the challenge of read option and all that good stuff? So
I'm gonna say offensive catalyst for Syracuse, Tommy DeVito, because he needs to command this game. He needs to command it early. He needs to command it consistently, and maybe play his, best complete game and ever. And then I think defensively, I'm going to say the linebacker core, that when Malik Willis makes these moves and tries to get out into the open field, that they don't let him get past the second level. So I'm going to say the entire linebacker core.
Right. No, I agree. Because that's going to go hand in hand, like I say, read option, whether the defensive end is pushing him back up, or because if you cave in and give him the outside, hopefully, Wax or whoever is, back there, Thompson's back there to clean that back up. So,
Offensive and defensive catalyst for Liberty.
Well, I think Malik's going to be the offensive catalyst. I think believe he's coming in leading rusher too for the team far this season. So whatever we can limit him to doing, that's going to determine it. But he's definitely the straw that stirs the drink for those guys. So defensively, I'm not really. I'll be honest, I'm really not too up to defensively what they bring. But again, if they're giving Tommy fits with pressure, that could be. We know what the tape says to do against a Tommy-led offense.
So. Story Jackson is leading the team in total tackles with 20, and then looking at the guys that have at least a sack this season, we're looking at Ahmad Walker, the linebacker, with a half a sack. Kendi Charles, defensive tackle, has 4 sacks this season to lead the team. Story Jackson has a sack and a half. Rashad Harding, linebacker, has a half a sack. Elijah James, D-tackle, has a half a sack. Story Jackson is a linebacker also. And then Henry Chabuz, a D-tackle, has 1 sack. Trayshawn Clark, D-end, has 1 sack. And we have Ralph's Ruson's defensive tackle has a sack this season as well. So the defensive line is obviously active.
Yes, yeah.
And the linebackers.
Yeah, they definitely got some athletes over on that side of the ball.
So you can say D-line again, and I'll say linebackers catalyst for this because they've gotten to the quarterback. 10 sacks in 3 games this season, and the team, I believe it's 10 altogether. Let's see here. So, 10 sacks through 3 games, and Liberty is 3-0. And I would say the offensive catalyst, since you said Malik Willis, I'm going to say Shedro Lewis, and we all know why. The man was a beast. 17 yards a carry, 10 carries, 170 yards, getting into the end zone, and being involved in the passing game. 180 total yards. Shedro Lewis was, he was a highlight reel. He was doing what Travis Etienne had done with Clemson against Syracuse.
But you know what he is? He's that change of speed back. You know what I'm saying? Because looking at the stats right there, they got other guys that toting the rock more than him, and they're wearing you down. So once he's getting the rock, he's that guy with that extra burst. He's not the biggest guy, like you said, but he's the guy with the speed that, he's the change of pace. So the defense,
they move you slow, you slow, and then he
exactly.
And then when you start, he's going to run through. And you made me think of Family Matters when Urkel was like, "I'm wearing you down." So made me think of him. And Shed was like, but yeah, all 5'8" of them, man. I know that life, and he's definitely. I think some people were like shortest guy on the field, and he was the best player.
Right.
So as I told my basketball coach, basically in my own way, that I didn't end up playing for at my high school, and I went elsewhere. Height don't matter.
Not in the game of football, it don't. No. Definitely don't.
Yeah, so, and when you can shoot threes, height doesn't matter, Coach, but much love and respect to you.
Yes.
Appreciate you. Because you pushed me to be better. So I appreciate that very much. So with that being said, Syracuse taking on Liberty. We gave you our catalyst of this. Shedra Lewis, Malik Willis to watch out for, the linebacker core and the defensive line, because they have had 10 sacks in 3 games for Liberty as well. And on Syracuse's side, we have told you, Isaac said the defensive line to pressure Malik Willis. I said the linebackers to make sure they get him before he breaks into the second level and out of the second level. And then you said the offensive line for Syracuse, and I said Tommy DeVito, both together responsible for more sacks than you want to have.
Right.
And this is Tommy's time to show up and show that he can really command this team and to play a complete game against a Hugh Freeze team that's very good. And the offensive line, spent the last 2 years the worst in the country in sacks allowed, and you do not want to have a trifecta season where you tic-tac-toe yourself to the bottom of Division 1A college football.
Yeah, definitely. I think these guys, like I said, this is a good barometer for those guys to go out there and get a true test so far in this, because this is probably the game. If I would have said they would have went 3-1 in the non-conference, this was probably the game I was hoping. Not hoping. I would love them to go 4-0, but if there was a team to give them problems, this was probably going to be that team. So
Rutgers and Liberty were my biggest concerns.
Right.
Liberty my biggest, then Rutgers, then Ohio, then Albany.
Right. Oh yeah, definitely in that order. Because, and like you would say with Rutgers, I just knew their game is physical. And
well, it's Schiano.
Schiano's physical, and they're a Big Ten team, so they recruit no matter how well they play in their own conference. They still got those athletes to be that physical team and whatnot. So, and it was a matter of whether Syracuse was going to match that physicality and do something in that game. So again, I think Liberty's going to be that kind of team, bring some physicalness to the game, and now it's time for Syracuse to say, hey, this is who we are, and we're going to match your energy that you're bringing. And it's Friday night, the new lights under the dome, and then, sometimes it's kind of like a special energy on a Friday night in the dome, and, hey, I'm ready to see it.
Yeah, and I got to experience before the fans came in what those lights look like to make night look like day, and vice versa. So I hope they treat this like a Billy Joel concert.
Right.
And I hope, they bring out the orange lights and the white lights and have some fun, make this interesting. I love Friday night lights, and I just hope the dome is bright. I'm happy that there's air in the dome, and I'm also looking forward to just, the loudness. This is going to be a big game for Syracuse. Arguably, circling this game, this could be the biggest game of the season, depending on how Clemson does, because if Clemson loses to NC State, which I have them doing this weekend, they're on the road. If they lose NC State, they're out of contention for the college football playoff just 4 weeks into the season.
Yeah.
And to say, and really it's going to come down to quote, go back to the Urkel thing, who wears the, who's I'm wearing you down, who does that, which brings me to Drake, where he says high school yearbook said he had me on my Urkel. So I have that too, and I appreciate it as always. And y'all know that Certified Lover Boy is better than Donda. So Kanye, I appreciate you. But there is a right answer to that question. Saying 7 a.m. on Bridal Path is very meaningful. They're all very meaningful. So is The Remorse. There's a lot of good stuff. So, and no friends in the industry, as Isaac and I know. Because besides us, well,
Yeah.
what can you say? But we've learned a lot here today, and the last time I checked, I think, Liberty was still on the field running the ball, and the annulment was still not done. So, Cafe Kubal Studios, make sure that you check them out. 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 208 North Townsend Street, 401 South Salina Street in Syracuse, downtown Syracuse inside of Galisanos Children's Hospital, 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, and their newest location and first ever drive-thru on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road in North Syracuse, New York. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora's normal hours. You'll find us Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, facebook.com/live-now-dt where you're watching and listening, and you're listening on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt, and the homepage of wakeupcalldt.com where you'll find everything that you need to know about all the companies that we're blessed to work with, all of the channels to get our archives, and so much more, including a bunch of our videos. You can search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on Stitcher, Spotify, MixLR, TuneIn, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Podbean, YouTube, and more. Search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. If you go to wakeupcalldt.com's homepage, you can click on any one of these logos, and it'll bring you directly there. And, of course, a thank you to our Central and Upstate New York partners, Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, Progressive Dental, Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. Go to maandpazpopcorn.com. Any one of the 50 states, order online and get 20% off by using my promo code at checkout, DT20. That's DT20 at maandpazpopcorn.com. Avicoli's, Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, the Lemoyne Dolphins, Pizza Man, Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, PB&J's Lunchbox, Honda City of Liverpool, Mother's Cupboard, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, the Millhouse Market, and Canine Campground Dog Boarding. And one's coming soon, and that's all I'm going to say. So we'll talk with you all soon. Find us on Facebook after this to find out the big news with Isaac and I, with Dan Tortora Broadcast Media and Wake Up Call. So very excited for this. At Wake Up Call DT on Facebook, at Call DT on Twitter, and at Wake Up Call _DT on Instagram. And as always, Isaac, thank you.
Pleasure.
Fans, will see you at the game. And I always want to leave you with this: God bless, which means remember your blessings and that God is loving you and guiding you no matter how bad it seems. No